I'm Alexia Volkov, 36, a software engineer living on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. I once thought my work was nothing more than writing code. Until the day I discovered those lines weren't meant to protect people, but to turn 330 million Americans into prisoners of surveillance, tracked in every gesture, every step, even every breath. I refused to finish it, and was cast out of the machine without mercy. Ilana Morozova, the woman who once swore with me to defend freedom, now sits high in a seat of power, praised as a savior, while I was crushed without a shred of compassion. I lost my job, my name, and nearly my faith in myself. I thought I had lost everything, until Zura Haddad, a former colleague who has been quietly resisting from the inside, risked everything to give me one fragile chance, 1 hour of access to the system. The tiny drive trembled in my hands, while before me loomed a colossal machine, a nexus of corporate and government power tightening its grip. I knew I was small, insignificant even, but my conscience screamed, stay silent and let them keep trampling our freedom, or rise and fight back. And I chose to fight, even if the price is my own life. The night air was cold in the city. Streetlights painted long shadows over the sidewalk where I stood, staring up at the tall glass building that used to be my workplace. The corporate logo on the facade gleamed in silver, unbothered by the storm inside my chest. My employee badge was now useless, the security chip inside already deactivated, but I kept it in my hand anyway. I squeezed it so tightly my knuckles turned pale. I whispered under my breath, I will not let this thing swallow the future. I was 36, a senior software engineer who had built parts of the most complex surveillance architecture the country had ever attempted. I had been fired just hours earlier for saying no. I had refused to keep coding the modules that would allow the government and my former company to track every citizen in real time. Cars passed by behind me, their engines humming, their headlights flickering on my face. I barely noticed. My mind replayed the conversation in the boardroom earlier that afternoon. Rachel, said the division chief, a man with a sharp suit and colder eyes, we are on the verge of something historic. Do not be the one who slows us down. I had sat back in my chair, shoulders stiff. Historic for who? For citizens who will wake up and realize they are living inside a cage they cannot even see? A silence had stretched across the room. Then Ilya Morozov, my former colleague and old friend, had spoken. Rachel, listen. This system can save lives. It can stop attacks before they happen. It can prevent chaos. You know this. You helped design the core. I turned to him. My voice was quiet but heavy. Saving lives by monitoring every heartbeat and every step, that is not safety, Ilya. That is control. And you used to know the difference. The memory burned even now as I stood outside the building. Ilya had once been a passionate advocate for privacy rights. Back in our university days, we had spent long nights coding encryption tools in cramped dorm rooms, convinced we were defending human dignity. Now he was the head of the project I had just rejected. I slid the badge into my pocket and started walking. The city around me looked ordinary, but I knew how quickly ordinary could vanish. Cameras perched on lampposts, sensors on bus stops, microphones hidden in infrastructure that most citizens never questioned. I had helped build pieces of it, under the promise that each sensor was limited, each data stream isolated. Now those promises were gone. The company had merged the parts into one massive system, one that could track, profile, and silence. I reached a small cafe on the corner. The place smelled of roasted beans and warm bread. I ordered black coffee and sat near the window. My phone buzzed with messages from numbers I did not recognize. Probably company officials reminding me of non-disclosure clauses, maybe even subtle threats. I ignored them. Instead, I opened an old contact on my phone, Lynn Pham. She was an investigative journalist who had once written about my open-source encryption project. Her reporting had been sharp but fair. She had told me years ago, you build doors and I show people where they are. I had not spoken to her in months, maybe years, but tonight I needed her. I typed quickly. Need to talk. Urgent. Face to face, not safe on phone. I hit send and waited. The coffee grew cold. Then my phone lit up. Meet me tomorrow. Use payphone on 7th and call this number. I smiled faintly. She had not changed. Still cautious. Still sharp. I put the phone away and stared out the window. On the street, a couple walked by laughing, arms linked. For a second, I envied their ignorance. They had no idea that the same laughter could be recorded, analyzed, and scored by algorithms hidden in the city's nervous system. Inside my head, I repeated the words again. I will not let this thing swallow the future. The script of my life had shifted. I was no longer an employee. I was now something else. Perhaps a whistleblower, perhaps a fugitive. But above all, I was someone who had decided to fight. Later that night, I sat in my apartment surrounded by books and monitors. My desk was cluttered with papers, sketches of network diagrams, notes about encryption methods, half-written code. I booted up a small, isolated computer not connected to the internet. From a hidden directory, I opened something few people in the world knew existed. A module I had written years ago while testing the surveillance system. I had called it CounterEye. Officially, it was a diagnostic tool meant to test vulnerabilities. Unofficially, it was a seed of resistance. CounterEye could decode data streams, expose what the system was capturing, and reveal the names and faces being monitored. I leaned back and whispered to myself, "This is the ace they do not know I kept." My phone buzzed again. This time it was not Lynn. It was Diego Alvarez, an old friend and cryptographer I had met at a conference in Spain. The message was short. "Heard what happened. If you need another pair of hands, I am in," I typed back. "I might stay ready." The apartment felt heavy with silence. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the storm building beneath the surface. I knew I was only at the beginning. There would be allies and enemies, leaks and lies, fear and courage. But for now, I let myself breathe. I looked at the monitors glowing in the dark and imagined a future where the system was not hidden but exposed for everyone to see. I whispered one last time before turning off the light. "No cage is perfect. Every cage has a key, and I am holding one." The next morning, the city was gray with drizzle. I left my apartment early, pulling up the hood of my jacket. I carried no phone this time. I had taken out the SIM card and left the device powered off in a drawer. Instead, I walked with my hands in my pockets, head low, eyes alert to reflections in shop windows. The payphone on 7th still worked, a relic of another era. Most people passed it without a glance, assuming it was broken. I stepped inside the booth, lifted the receiver, and dialed the number Lynn had sent. The ring lasted only once. A woman's voice came on, low and fast. "Do not say names. Where are you?" "Here," I answered softly. "Good, cross the street, go 2 blocks east. There is a bookstore. The sign is faded green, wait by the history shelf." Click, the line went dead. I placed the receiver back and walked as instructed. The drizzle thickened into light rain. I passed crowds with umbrellas, each person locked in their own world. I wondered how many of them were already in the databases of the system I had helped design. The bookstore was old, its wooden sign chipped, the glass windows fogged from inside. A bell above the door jingled when I entered. The smell of paper and dust greeted me. I moved toward the history section and pretended to browse. Minutes later, Lynn appeared. She wore a dark coat, hair tied back, glasses sliding slightly down her nose. She looked like any ordinary professional, but her eyes carried the sharpness of someone who had seen too many secrets. She pretended to pull a book from the shelf beside me. "You look like hell," she said without looking directly at me. "Feels accurate," I muttered. We both stepped aside into a narrow aisle. Lynn lowered her voice. "So, you asked for this. Tell me why I should risk even talking to you." I took a breath. "Because what they are building is not just another surveillance upgrade, it is total. It can follow every movement, every message, every call. And they fired me because I said no." Lynn turned a page of the book as if reading. "You have proof." "Not yet, but I know where to get it, and I know what it can do." Her eyes flicked toward me for the first time. "Rachel, you understand what happens to whistleblowers here. Careers destroyed, homes raided, sometimes worse. Why should I not walk away right now?" "Because you care about truth," I said. My voice was low, steady. "Because you once told me a journalist's job is to shine light where power hides, and this is the darkest place I have ever seen." For a long second, she said nothing. The only sound was the rain tapping against the window. Finally, she closed the book and slid it back onto the shelf. "All right, one chance. You get me evidence and I will listen, but if you try to feed me paranoia or half-baked conspiracy, I am gone." "Fair," I said. She pulled a card from her pocket and slipped it into the pages of another book, then placed the book back on the shelf. "That has a number. It is one way. You leave messages, I pick them up. Do not call me directly again. Do not text. We will meet like this in random places." "Understood, understood." She adjusted her glasses. "And Rachel, be careful. If half of what you are saying is true, they are already watching you." She turned and walked away, leaving me with the smell of dust and the echo of her warning. That night, I returned to my apartment, restless. I pulled up files I had saved on encrypted drives, notes from my time at the company. I traced diagrams of the data pipelines, the nodes where information converged. I remembered the prototype I had coded, the CounterEye module. It was still raw, still dangerous, but it could open a window into the black box. My monitor glowed as lines of code scrolled past. My thoughts drifted back to Ilya. Ilya's voice from the boardroom echoed, "We are making the world safer." I slammed the laptop shut. "Safer for who?" I whispered. The next day I received another message. This time from an old colleague still inside the company, Omar Haddad. It came in the form of an encrypted email routed through multiple relays. Subject line, "You were right." The body was short. "They are moving faster than anyone knows. Testing full integration next week. I cannot talk long. If you need access, I can help." I stared at the words. My chest tightened. Omar was still inside, risking everything by contacting me. I typed a reply. "Meet in person, no digital trail." I hesitated before hitting send, then encrypted the message and pushed it out. 3 nights later, I sat in the back of a dimly lit diner. The neon sign outside buzzed, casting red light over the rain-soaked street. Omar entered quietly, a slim man in his early 30s with tired eyes. He slid into the booth across from me. "You should not have answered me," Omar said, voice low. "They track everything." I leaned forward. "Then why risk it?" Omar rubbed his forehead. "Because I cannot stand what they are doing. At first it was just metadata, call logs, location pings. Then they pushed for voice recordings. Now it is full content. Every message, every call, stored, indexed, searchable. Rachel, they can listen to anyone at any time." I clenched my jaw. "And the integration next week?" Omar nodded. "They are combining the domestic feeds with foreign contracts. It is not just our government. They are selling the system overseas, to regimes that crush dissent. They are turning this into a global product." I sat back, the words heavy in the air. I had suspected, but hearing it confirmed made my stomach twist. Omar glanced around nervously. "I can get you temporary credentials. 1-hour window, maybe less. But if they trace it back to me, I am finished." "I will protect you," I said firmly. "I will not expose your name." Omar met my eyes. "Promise me, Rachel, I do this only because I believe you will use it wisely. Do not waste it." "I promise." We sat in silence for a moment. The waitress dropped off 2 cups of coffee. Neither of us touched them. Finally, Omar slid a small flash drive across the table. "Tomorrow night, midnight. The credentials expire after that. Use them well." I pocketed the drive. "Thank you." Omar stood quickly, pulling up his hood. "Be careful, my friend. They are not just watching the people. They are watching each other. Trust no one." Then he left, the bell over the door jingling softly as the rain outside swallowed him. I sat alone, staring at the untouched coffee. The war had begun, and I was in it whether I wanted to be or not. It was a cold Friday night when I got the message. An unknown number pinged my encrypted inbox with a single line. "Parking level 3, 10 o'clock. Come alone." I knew who it was before even opening the attachment. The location pin belonged to a corporate building where I and Ilya used to work late nights coding side by side. Back then we had been idealists, burning through energy drinks and pizza boxes, writing algorithms we believed would protect freedom. Now the same building housed the heart of the surveillance machine. I debated for hours. It could be a trap, or maybe Ilya really wanted to talk, maybe even to save me. In the end, I decided to go. The garage smelled of oil and damp concrete. Lights buzzed overhead, casting yellow halos. I walked slowly, my footsteps echoing. I saw Ilya leaning against a black car, hands in his coat pockets. His hair was shorter now, neatly styled, his suit expensive. But his eyes still carried that restless energy I remembered. "You came," Ilya said softly. "I almost didn't," I replied. For a moment we just looked at each other, 2 people who had once been brothers in code. Ilya broke the silence. "Rachel, why are you making this so hard? You and I built the foundations of this system. We know its potential. You of all people should understand why it matters." I shook my head. "What matters is choice. People should have the choice to live without eyes watching every second. What you're building takes that away." Ilya stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Do you think I like this? Do you think I haven't lost sleep over it? But the world is dangerous, Rachel. Attacks, chaos, misinformation. Governments need tools to survive. Without order there is no freedom." My jaw tightened. "You sound like a speechwriter. That's not you. You used to hack government firewalls just to prove citizens deserved privacy. You wore that like a badge. Now you're selling the same citizens to the highest bidder." Ilya's eyes flashed. "I grew up, Rachel. I learned that ideals don't stop bombs. Ideals don't prevent blood in the streets." I stepped forward now, close enough to smell the cologne on my old friend's jacket. "And what stops the bombs when the system you're building is turned against its own people? What happens when some dictator across the ocean buys your software and uses it to crush protests, silence journalists, erase dissent? Is that safety? Is that the order you believe in? For a second, something flickered in Ilya's eyes, guilt, doubt, maybe even shame. Then it hardened. You don't see the whole picture, he said. You've been out of the loop too long. We're not just building for one government. We're shaping the future of global security. If you come back, I can protect you. You'll have resources, status, influence. You'll be able to steer the project instead of throwing stones at it. I laughed bitterly. Protect me? With what? A corner office and a paycheck soaked in silence? No, Ilya, I don't need protection from the world. I need the world to be protected from you. The words landed heavy. Ilya's jaw clenched. His voice grew colder. Careful, Rachel. You don't know how many eyes are on you already. Walk away now and maybe they'll forget. But keep pushing and you'll end up like the others. I frowned. The others? Ilya hesitated, then looked away. Forget it, just go home, think about what I said. He opened the car door, slid inside, and drove off, leaving me standing in the echo of exhaust fumes and fluorescent light. Later that night, I sat in my apartment, staring at my screens. I could still hear Ilya's voice, the mix of pleading and threat. Without order, there is no freedom. I muttered to myself. Without freedom, there is no life. I pulled up CounterEye again, running small simulations. The code whispered possibilities, access points, hidden channels, backdoors. I knew the module was unfinished, unstable, but it might be the only weapon I had. I typed notes furiously, my mind racing. If Omar could deliver the temporary credentials, I could test CounterEye inside the system itself. That would give me evidence. That would give Lynn the story she needed. My phone buzzed again. A new message. This time from Diego Alvarez. Boarding flight, will be in your city tomorrow. You are not doing this alone. I leaned back in my chair. For the first time that week, I let out a long breath. I was not alone anymore. And that meant the fight was just beginning. The rain had not stopped for 3 days. It ran down my apartment window in silver streaks while I sat hunched over my desk, the glow of multiple monitors turning my face pale. Empty coffee cups cluttered the table. A half-eaten sandwich sat forgotten near the keyboard. On the center screen, a block of code pulsed in green letters. CounterEye, my secret module, my ace in the hole. I remembered the night I had written the first lines of it. It had been long past midnight in the company lab. Most engineers had gone home. Only I and Ilya had stayed behind. We were testing the early prototype of the surveillance system, checking for weak spots. Officially, I had called the module a diagnostic patch, something to stress test the encryption. Unofficially, I had embedded routines that could reverse the entire flow, peeling back the layers to reveal raw data. Now, as I stared at the code years later, I whispered to myself. I planted a seed in the dark, and now it's the only light I've got. I typed a command. The screen shifted. Strings of data unraveled, exposing metadata samples from archived tests, IP addresses, voice fragments, GPS logs. Even though these were only trial runs from years ago, the clarity was chilling. My phone vibrated, a video call request. Diego Alvarez, I clicked accept. Diego's face appeared, framed by the noise of an airport lounge. His hair was messy, his backpack slung over one shoulder. Compadre, Diego said, smiling faintly. You look like you haven't slept in days. I smirked. Look who's talking, what are you doing here? Couldn't let you burn the world alone. I land in 2 hours. You pick me up, I nodded. Yeah, but listen. Things are worse than we thought. Omar says they're integrating domestic and foreign feeds. It's not just surveillance, it's export. They're selling oppression as a product. Diego's smile faded. Dios mío, and Ilya, my jaw tightened. He tried to convince me to come back, offered me protection. He's not just building the machine, he's guarding it. Diego leaned closer to the camera. Then we need more than words, we need proof, real proof. I have something, I said, lowering my voice. Remember the diagnostic module I once showed you in Madrid? The one I said was too dangerous to use? Diego's eyes widened. CounterEye, you still have that? I nodded slowly. It can decode the streams. It can show who they're watching. It's unfinished, unstable, but it works. If I connect it during Omar's access window, we can see everything. Diego whistled softly. Rachel, that's like dropping a match in a gas tank. One wrong move and they'll trace you instantly. I looked at the lines of code dancing on my screen. Then we don't move wrong. Midnight, airport terminal. I waited by the arrival gate. When Diego finally appeared, dragging his worn suitcase, we hugged briefly like comrades who had been through wars together. You look older, Diego said, grinning. You look reckless, I shot back. We laughed, but the weight of what lay ahead hung between us. In the car, Diego pulled out a small, encrypted laptop. Show me CounterEye. Back at the apartment, I projected the code on the wall. Diego studied it, nodding slowly. You sneaky bastard, you really built a backdoor right under their noses. I called it a diagnostic routine. Nobody questioned it, too busy chasing deadlines. Diego ran a quick test on his laptop. Data bloomed across the screen. He sucked in a breath. This isn't just a tool, this is a weapon. You realize if this leaks, governments will hunt it like nuclear codes. I leaned forward, my face lit by the glow. Exactly, that's why we use it carefully. Only enough to expose the truth, only enough to show people what's being done to them. We sat in silence, the hum of servers filling the room. Then Diego said quietly, "So what's the plan?" I opened my notebook. Omar gives us a 1-hour credential window. During that time, we log in through a shadow channel. We run counter-eye. We pull proof. Lynn prepares the story. Sarah builds legal cover. Nadia provides testimony. When the evidence is ready, we go public. Not a leak, not a rumor, a bomb of truth. Diego raised an eyebrow. And if they trace us, I closed the notebook. Then we run, but at least we run knowing the world has seen. Later that night, I could not sleep. I stood by the window watching the rain blur the city lights. I thought of Ilya again. The friend who had once fought for freedom, now defending the cage. My reflection in the glass looked tired, haunted. I whispered to it. Every cage has a key, and I built one. Now I have to decide if I'm brave enough to use it. Behind me, Diego was already asleep on the couch, snoring lightly, one arm draped over his laptop like a soldier cradling a weapon. The war was coming, and I could feel the walls closing in. The apartment smelled of coffee again. I had brewed a full pot even though my hands were already shaking from caffeine. Diego sat at the table scribbling equations and diagrams on scraps of paper. The hum of servers filled the room like a restless heartbeat. At 9 sharp, there was a knock at the door. 3 short, too long. I looked through the peephole before unlocking. Lynn Pham stepped in, coat dripping from the rain. She pushed her glasses up and glanced around. "Nice bunker you've got here," she said dryly. "Better than a newsroom full of spies," Diego muttered without looking up. Lynn arched an eyebrow. "And you must be the Spanish cryptographer he keeps quoting." Diego stood and bowed slightly with a grin. "Diego Alvarez, at your service. I break ciphers, not hearts, usually." Lynn ignored the joke and turned to me. "You called me here for more than introductions. Talk." I handed her a folder. Inside were diagrams of the system architecture, sketches of the surveillance data flow, and notes about counter-eye. "This is what they've built, and this is what I can use to expose it." Lynn skimmed the pages, her face tightening. "If this is real, it's bigger than anything I've touched, but proof matters. Without evidence, it's just paranoia." "That's where Omar comes in," I said. "He's still inside. He'll give us access for 1 hour, enough to pull the data we need." Lynn looked skeptical. "And if it fails?" "Then we go down trying," I answered. Another knock. This time it was Sarah Kim. She carried a leather bag stuffed with papers and wore a sharp black suit. Her eyes scanned the apartment like a courtroom. "Rachel Morgan," she said, extending a hand. "I've heard whispers about you." Never thought I'd be representing a whistleblower before I even had the case file. I shook her hand. "Glad you're here. We'll need legal cover. They'll come at us hard." Sarah sat down, pulling out documents. "First thing you need to know, whistleblower protections are thin. They'll try to paint you as a traitor. We need to frame this not as theft but as exposure of government abuse. We need victims, human faces. Numbers won't stir the public. People will." As if on cue, the door opened again. Nadia Petrova entered, her hair damp from the rain, a faded backpack slung over her shoulder. She looked younger than her eyes suggested, carrying a heaviness that words could not erase. "Nadia," I greeted softly. She nodded. "They tracked me for years. Every call, every message. My family back home was harassed. I had to flee just to breathe. If your system is what I think it is, then it's the same poison that killed my country's freedom. And if you can prove it, I'll speak." Lynn closed her notebook with a snap. "Then we have what we need. A source inside, a legal shield, a witness, a cryptographer, a journalist, and one very stubborn engineer." Diego raised his coffee cup. "Sounds like the beginning of a terrible spy movie." Sarah cut in, voice crisp. "Not a movie, a war, and wars need discipline. From now on, no phones, no unsecured emails. We meet in person only. If you slip, they'll eat you alive." I nodded. "Agreed. From this point on, we're ghosts." The rest of the night was spent mapping out roles. Omar would deliver credentials. Diego and I would run counter-eye. Lynn would prepare the narrative for maximum impact. Sarah would build legal frameworks. Nadia would give testimony. At one point, Nadia spoke quietly, almost to herself. "They'll come after me again, maybe worse this time. But if staying silent means others suffer the same fate, then what's the point of surviving?" I looked at her, my chest heavy. "You're not alone this time. None of us." Diego grinned. One team, one crazy plan." Lynn smirked faintly. "Then let's make it worth the risk." The group sat in the flickering light of my apartment, the storm outside pounding the windows. 6 people, each with their own scars, now bound together by a single truth: we were about to challenge a machine that fed on silence. The room was dark except for the glow of 2 laptops. It was close to midnight, the time Omar had promised. I sat at my desk, Diego at my side, our fingers hovering over keyboards like soldiers gripping rifles. The rest of the team was scattered across the apartment, waiting. Lynn paced near the window, notebook in hand. Sarah sat with her arms crossed, watching the screens like a jury. Nadia hugged her knees on the couch, silent, her eyes fixed on the door as if expecting it to burst open at any second. On the desk lay a small flash drive, Omar's gift, his ticket inside. I exhaled slowly. Once I plug this in, the clock starts. 1 hour, maybe less. Diego grinned nervously. Plenty of time to blow up the universe, hermano. Sarah cut in sharply. Don't joke, focus. I slid the drive into the port. The laptop screen flickered, then displayed a login prompt with layers of encryption swirling like a puzzle box. Diego typed furiously, muttering in Spanish. Credentials work. We're in. Shadow channel is live. Nobody scream. Lines of code scrolled. I launched CounterEye. The module flickered to life, its interface raw and skeletal. For a moment the system hesitated, then streams of data began to pour across the screen. At first it was only metadata. Phone numbers, GPS pings, timestamps, then deeper. Audio snippets, text conversations, video feeds from street cameras. Everything was tagged, indexed, searchable. Diego leaned closer, eyes wide. Matter de Dios, they're not just watching, they're archiving life itself. Lynn stopped pacing. She stepped closer, eyes narrowing at the scrolling feeds. Pull a sample, something undeniable. My hands shook slightly as I typed commands. The screen shifted to a list of flagged individuals. Names, profiles, categories: journalist, judge, activist, opposition. Nadia's breath caught. Wait, scroll back, that's my name. We all froze. On the screen was Nadia Petrova's file. A full dossier. Every message she had sent over the past 3 years. Calls with her family, emails with colleagues. Photos from her private folders. Her voice cracked. They're still watching me, even here, even after I fled. Sarah clenched her fists. This is proof. This is human. This is what people need to see. Rage surged through me. I dug deeper. More names appeared, well-known journalists, judges who had ruled against the government, activists who had organized peaceful protests. Diego whispered, horrified. They built a map of dissent, and they hold the kill switch. The clock ticked. 40 minutes left. Suddenly, the screen flickered. A warning appeared, access trace DETCTED. I muttered under my breath. They know someone's inside, not who, not where, but they know. Diego's fingers flew over the keyboard. I can mask us for a while, but not forever. 20 minutes max. I scanned the room. Then we get what we came for. Lynn, take notes. Sarah, prep the framework. Nadia, brace yourself. This will get ugly. Nadia's voice was firm now. Do it. Show them everything. We downloaded encrypted logs, proof of targeted surveillance, contracts linking the system to foreign governments. The files piled into our drive like stolen treasure. The screen flashed again, trace escalating. Diego muttered a prayer in Spanish. 5 more minutes, Rachel. I hit the final command. CounterEye extracted a hidden index, a list of external clients. Flags of different countries appeared beside corporate shell names. Dictatorships. Monarchies. Regimes notorious for silencing dissent. Lynn whispered, "Oh my God, they're selling the cage." The laptop chimed. Download complete. I yanked the flash drive out. Connection severed. The screen went dark. Silence filled the room, broken only by our pounding hearts. Finally, Diego leaned back, wiping sweat from his forehead. Congratulations, amigos, we just robbed the devil's vault. Sarah exhaled slowly. Now comes the hard part, surviving the fallout. I held the flash drive, staring at its cold metal surface. Inside it was the truth, proof that could ignite the world, but also a death sentence if it fell into the wrong hands. I slipped it into my pocket and whispered, "No cage is perfect, and now we hold the key." Morning light broke through the blinds. Everyone looked drained. Diego had passed out on the couch, one arm over his eyes. Sarah was still awake, flipping through legal documents like a machine. Nadia sat silently with her backpack at her feet, staring into space. Lynn sat at the table, laptop open, having dug all night. Coffee mugs circled her like chess pieces. Her fingers moved quickly, cross-referencing names, contracts, and shell companies with the files Diego and I had pulled. Finally, she pushed her glasses up and said quietly, "You were right. It's not just local, it's global." I rubbed my eyes. "Show me." She spun the laptop around. On the screen was a web of company names tied to offshore banks. Each name pointed to a government contract. Beside each contract was a flag, a small desert monarchy, a one-party state in Asia, a dictatorship in Africa, a corrupt regime in Eastern Europe. They're selling the system piece by piece, Lynn explained, through shell corporations. Each country thinks they're buying a defense network. In reality, they're buying a turnkey solution for mass control. Sarah leaned over her shoulder, frowning. This makes it 10 times harder legally. Once it's international, every jurisdiction will try to bury us. Nadia spoke for the first time in hours, her voice low but steady. I recognize some of these names. Journalists disappeared in those countries. Activists jailed. This explains how. I clenched my fists. And Ilya is behind this? Lynn clicked another tab. A signature appeared on one of the contracts. Ilya Morozov, her voice was sharp. He's not just running the project. He's cashing in, millions through back channels, selling to the very regimes he once condemned. Diego stirred on the couch, blinking at the screen. Matter Mia. He used to preach about privacy at conferences. I remember him shouting about digital freedom in Barcelona. Now he's the face of digital tyranny. My chest tightened. He told me he was protecting people. All along, he was protecting profits. Lynn tapped the keyboard, pulling up news articles and leaked business records. This isn't just a tech story anymore. It's a geopolitical bomb. If we drop it, governments around the world will scramble to cover their tracks, and will be targets from every side. Sarah closed her folder with a snap. Then we need to decide now. Are we exposing this locally, one country at a time, or detonating the whole thing at once? Nadia's eyes blazed. You already know my answer. Go big. People in my country are still suffering. If you hold back, you leave them behind. Diego rubbed his temples. Big means danger. They'll come for us with everything. I looked around the room, each face marked by fatigue, fear, but also determination. I placed the flash drive on the table. We didn't come this far to play it safe. We dropped the bomb, all of it. Lynn exhaled slowly, then nodded. Then we'll need layers, redundancy. If they kill the story in one place, it pops up somewhere else. I'll draft the first report, but we'll mirror it across multiple outlets. Diego leaned back, grinning tiredly. Looks like we're about to ruin some very powerful mornings. Sarah's voice was steady, almost cold. Before that, we need to prepare for the backlash. Arrests, raids, character assassination. Rachel, once this goes public, you'll be painted as a traitor. Nadia will be called a liar. Diego, a foreign agitator. Me, an activist lawyer. Lynn, a propagandist. We need to be ready for the storm. I picked up the drive again, weighing it like a stone. The storm is already. We just haven't stepped outside yet. For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of servers filled the silence. Finally, Lynn broke it. All right, I'll start tracing the money trail deeper. The more ties we expose, the harder it will be for them to deny. Give me 48 hours. I nodded. Do it and stay invisible. Nadia zipped up her backpack. I'll write my testimony, word for word. If they want a face, they'll get mine. Sarah gathered her papers. And I'll prepare injunctions. We'll need to hit the courts the moment this breaks, before they can bury us in lawsuits. Diego stretched and cracked his neck. And I'll make sure Counter-Eye can't be shut down easily. Think of it as giving the truth 9 lives. I looked at each of them, my team, my only shield against the machine. I felt the weight of the moment pressing on my chest. Then it's decided. We go global. We show the world the cage, and we show them who built it. The rain outside had stopped. For the first time in days, the city was silent, waiting. The newsroom lights were harsh. Cameras hummed as they adjusted focus. On every major channel, a polished anchor introduced the guest of honor, Ilya Morozov, head of Horizon Security's flagship surveillance program. He sat tall in his suit, calm, almost charming. Mr. Morozov, the anchor began, rumors are spreading about your company's latest project. Some say it goes beyond normal counterterrorism. What do you say to critics who call it mass surveillance? Ilya smiled thinly. Critics thrive on fear. What we are building is not oppression, it is protection. Citizens today live under constant threat of attacks, cybercrime, and misinformation. Without order, freedom is meaningless. The anchor nodded as if hypnotized. So you're saying this is a shield? Exactly, Ilya said smoothly. We are not taking away rights. We are safeguarding them. You cannot speak freely if your streets are unsafe. You cannot vote freely if chaos reigns. Back in my apartment, my team sat crowded around a flickering TV. Nadia hugged a pillow to her chest, shaking her head. Listen to him. He makes it sound noble. Diego muttered, noble my ass, he's selling chains with a smile. Sarah's voice was clipped. And millions of viewers are eating it up. If we do counter fast, his narrative wins. Lynn grabbed her laptop. Then let's give them something undeniable. 2 hours later, an independent news site published Lynn's first article. The headline was simple but devastating: "Inside the Cage, Horizon Security's Global Surveillance Empire." The piece contained screenshots from Counter-Eye, dossiers of journalists, judges, activists, a redacted sample of Nadia's file with her permission, evidence of contracts with authoritarian governments. Within minutes, the story spread across social media. Hashtags erupted. Forums lit up. People argued, some calling it fake, others horrified. Then Nadia posted her own video. She sat at my desk, hair uncombed, voice steady. "My name is Nadia Petrova. I was tracked for years. Every call, every message, every picture. My government used this system to destroy lives. Now Horizon is selling the same system worldwide. I'm speaking because silence is complicity. If they can watch me, they can watch you." The video went viral within hours. The next morning, Ilya appeared on television again, angrier this time. He slammed the table during an interview. "These so-called whistleblowers are traitors. They are spreading lies that endanger national security. They show stolen fragments out of context. What they don't tell you is how many lives this system has already saved. Do you want bombs in your subway? Do you want chaos in your streets? This is what you risk by undermining us." I watched the broadcast with clenched fists. He's turning fear into a weapon. Lynn didn't look up from her laptop. That's exactly what they pay him for, but fear won't hold if we keep pushing proof. Sarah added, "Proof is one thing, faces are another. Nadia's testimony shook people. We need more victims willing to speak." Diego looked doubtful. "And if they're too afraid," I stood, "then we show them courage. We keep speaking until silence is no longer safe for anyone." That night, protests broke out downtown. Small at first, students holding cardboard signs that read "No eyes on us" and "Privacy is freedom." Police pushed them back, but more joined. Hashtags turned into streets filled with bodies. From a rooftop nearby, Lynn and I watched the crowd below. The chants echoed against the buildings. "This is only the beginning," Lynn said quietly. I nodded, feeling both pride and fear. "Yeah, and the beginning is always the most dangerous part." The underground parking garage smelled of gasoline and damp concrete. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, throwing pale pools across the floor. I walked slowly between the rows of cars, heart pounding. I had gotten the message an hour earlier. "Come alone, level B3, midnight." I knew who it was. Only Ilya would be reckless enough to summon me this way. At the far end of the garage, a black sedan waited with its headlights off. Ilya leaned against the hood, smoking. The glow of the cigarette lit his face, casting hard shadows across his cheekbones. "Rachel," he called, voice echoing, "you never could resist a dramatic invitation." I stopped 10 feet away. "I almost didn't come." Ilya flicked the cigarette, sparks scattering. "Yet here you are, always the stubborn one." We stared at each other for a long moment, two people tied by history and now divided by choices. He spoke first. "You've made quite a mess." Journalists screaming, streets full of protests, politicians panicking. "Do you feel proud?" My voice was steady. "I feel human, do you?" A bitter smile curved Ilya's lips. "You think this is about morality? It's about survival. Expose too much and you weaken the shield. You make us vulnerable. And for what? Ideals that won't protect a single child from a bomb in the subway." Alex stepped closer, jaw tight. "Don't twist this. You're not building a shield, you're building a cage. Now you're selling it to the highest bidder." Ilya's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand the scale. Governments want stability. Stability needs information. Without information, power collapses. You think you're saving freedom, but you're just handing the world to chaos." Alex shook his head. "I'd rather face chaos than live in chains." Ilya's voice dropped, softer, almost pleading. "Alex, I know you. I know the way your mind works. You hate corruption, you hate lies, but you can't fight the entire world. Come back, work with me. I can make sure you're safe. I can make sure your friends disappear from the radar. You'll have resources, influence. You'll have a seat at the table instead of being hunted under it." Alex let out a low, bitter laugh. "You think safety tempts me? Safety is the bribe they use to buy silence. No, Ilya, I don't want your table. I'd rather starve standing than feast crawling." Ilya's jaw clenched. For a moment, his mask slipped, and Alex saw something raw, anger, maybe regret. Then it hardened again. "You're making a mistake, and mistakes in this game don't end with demotions. They end with funerals." Alex stepped closer, only a few feet apart. His voice was quiet but sharp as glass. "Then bury me, but I won't be the one digging graves for everyone else." For a long moment, neither man moved. The hum of the lights filled the silence. Then Ilya turned, opened the car door, and slid inside. Before closing it, he said almost gently, "You're still my friend, Alex. And it breaks me to know you won't live long enough to see what we're building." The door slammed. The engine roared. Tires squealed as the car disappeared into the shadows, leaving Alex alone in the echo of exhaust fumes. He stood there, breathing hard, fists trembling. The echo of Ilya's words burned in his ears. Mistakes end with funerals. Alex whispered into the empty garage, "Then let it be my funeral, not theirs." The knock at the door was frantic, almost panicked. Alex rushed to open it and found Omar standing there, sweat dripping despite the cool night air. His eyes darted up and down the hallway before he slipped inside. "They know," Omar whispered, chest heaving. "Internal security started questioning me this morning. Logs, access times, everything. I stalled, but they're circling closer." The room fell silent. Diego set down his coffee slowly. Lynn looked up from her laptop, pen frozen mid-note. Sarah stood with her arms crossed, face unreadable. "How much time?" Alex asked. "Days, maybe hours," Omar said, voice cracking. "They'll comb through every record until they find me, and when they do," he trailed off, shaking his head. Nadia stepped forward, voice firm. "Then you stay here. They can't reach you if you disappear before they strike." Omar laughed bitterly. "Disappear? You think they won't look under every rock, every shadow? If I vanish, that's as good as confessing." Sarah finally spoke, crisp and controlled. "We can get you protective custody if this goes public fast enough. But until then, you keep moving. Never sleep in the same place twice. No phones, cash only." Omar nodded, trembling. The next blow came the following morning. Sarah received a summons, not polite. Government lawyers demanded her appearance at a closed hearing. She returned to Alex's apartment with the paper clutched in her hand, expression grim. "They're trying to break me," she said flatly. "Force me to reveal sources." "Force me to name all of you." "Can they do that?" Diego asked. "They can try," Sarah replied. "They'll call it national security. Once that phrase is spoken in court, the law bends." Lynn slammed her notebook shut. "This is exactly what they want. Scare the lawyer, isolate the journalist, silence the witness, burn the whistleblower, a playbook as old as power itself." Alex rubbed his temples, pulse thundering in his ears. "Then we stick to the plan. No one breaks. We hold until the release." That night, paranoia thickened. Lynn noticed the same car circling the block twice. Diego swore someone was following him from the market. Nadia received an anonymous text, "We know where you sleep." She showed it to Alex without flinching. "Let them watch. I won't hide anymore." But later, when the apartment lights dimmed, Alex saw her trembling hands as she poured tea. She caught his eyes and forced a smile, but the fear was real. The team convened at the table, the flash drive lying between them like a loaded weapon. "Listen," Diego said, voice low, "we're running out of runway. Every hour we wait, they close the net tighter. At some point, they'll hit us first." Lynn nodded reluctantly. "He's right. We need to move faster. My article rattled them, but it's not enough. We need a full drop. Documents, contracts, victim testimonies, all at once." Sarah tapped the summons against the table. "If we go big, we go now. Before they drag me into that room, once I'm inside, I won't be able to protect any of you." Omar's voice shook. "I'll give you one last key, a deeper access. It'll burn me completely, but it'll prove the export deal's beyond denial. Use it." Alex stared at him. "Omar, that could destroy your life." Omar laughed darkly. "My life's already borrowed time. Better to use it for something that matters." Silence settled, heavy as lead. Finally, Alex spoke. "Then it's decided. Tomorrow night we go back in. One more run, one more chance to rip the truth from their system. After that, no turning back." Everyone nodded, though the fear in their eyes betrayed the weight of the choice. Nadia whispered, almost to herself, "Storm, here, we either drown in it or ride it." Outside, the city buzzed like normal. People drank coffee, checked phones, argued about sports. But inside Alex's apartment, the world had shrunk to a handful of faces, a flash drive, and the knowledge that tomorrow they would cross a line no one could uncross. The apartment lights were off, curtains drawn. Only the monitors glowed, throwing pale light across tense faces gathered around Alex's desk. Midnight again. Omar's final credentials were loaded onto a new flash drive. Alex's hands hovered over the keyboard. "Once we step in, there's no retreat. Everyone ready?" Diego cracked his knuckles. "Born ready." Sarah leaned forward, voice sharp. "Get everything, don't cherry pick. If we leave gaps, they'll spin the story." Nadia pulled her chair closer, jaw tight. "Show me, I need to see it with my own eyes." Lynn sat cross-legged on the floor, recorder in hand, every nerve wired to capture history. Alex slid the drive in. The screen filled with encrypted prompts. Diego typed furiously, each keystroke like a drumbeat. After 10 seconds, the system opened. "We're in," Diego whispered. Counter-eye booted. Its interface looked skeletal, raw code stitched together like a beating heart. Streams of data poured across the screen. Metadata, voice clips, live camera feeds, but this time Alex pushed deeper. Let's see who they're really watching. He entered commands. The feed shifted. A hidden index appeared. Profiles lined up in endless rows, each tagged with categories: journalist, judge, activist, opposition leader, student organizer, human rights lawyer. Nadia gasped. They're not chasing criminals, they're hunting voices. Alex clicked one profile at random. A young man's photo appeared, barely 20. Notes detailed every movement for the last 6 months: his dorm room, favorite cafe, the chat group he moderated calling for free elections. Sarah muttered, disgusted, "They've turned democracy into a crime scene." Alex clicked another. A middle-aged woman, teacher. Her file showed private messages to colleagues criticizing government corruption. Flagged, high risk. Diego swore under his breath. This isn't protection, it's preemptive punishment. Then Alex opened Nadia's file again. Her stomach clenched as intimate details filled the screen: calls with her mother, late-night chats with friends, even photos she thought she deleted. Her voice shook. They cataloged my life, every laugh, every tear, like I'm an insect under glass. Lynn's recorder clicked softly as she whispered, "This is the story, this is the proof." But Alex wasn't done. He typed another command, diving deeper. Counter eye strained, code flashing red warnings. Then a hidden vault cracked open. A new list appeared, priority watch targets. The names were chilling. Prominent judges known for ruling against government overreach, journalists exposing corruption, opposition party leaders, even foreign diplomats. Sarah's eyes widened. They're not just spying, they're weaponizing it for politics. This is systemic blackmail. Alex scrolled further, then froze. On the screen appeared a folder marked Export Clients. Inside were dossiers from other countries: activists in Asia, protesters in the Middle East, dissident writers in Africa, opposition groups in Eastern Europe. All fed through Horizon system, flagged, tracked, silenced. Diego whispered, horrified, "They've built a global prison." Omar's voice trembled. "That's what I tried to warn you. It's not one government, it's a marketplace. They sell silence like software." The system beeped. Red alert flashed, trace DETECTED. "Shit," Diego muttered, fingers flying. "They're on us again, 30 minutes, maybe less." "Grab it all," Alex ordered. The drives filled with data, terabytes of proof. Names, faces, conversations, contracts. Each file another piece of the truth, another life caught in the net. Sarah's voice was hard, unwavering. "This is enough to crack them wide open." Nadia's eyes burned with tears, but her voice was fierce. "Then let the world see." The final chime rang. Download complete. Alex yanked the drive free. The connection cut. Silence returned, heavy as thunder before a storm. Diego leaned back, wiping sweat from his brow. "Jesus, we just saw the inside of hell." Alex held the drive in his hand, its weight almost unbearable. "No," he said softly. "We saw the inside of a mirror, and now the world needs to look." The apartment was silent except for the steady hum of Diego's laptop fans. Everyone leaned in as lines of code unraveled into spreadsheets and contracts. Counter-Eye had dumped everything, and buried deep in the files were the smoking guns. Lynn scrolled, eyes narrowing behind her glasses. "Here, offshore accounts. Transfers routed through shell corporations in Cyprus, Panama, and Singapore, millions moving in neat little circles." Sarah leaned closer. "Whose name?" Lynn clicked. A digital signature appeared at the bottom of a contract, authorized by Ilya Morozov. The room froze. Nadia whispered, voice raw, "He sold it. He sold all of us." Diego slammed his palm against the table. "Cabron," he stood on stages preaching privacy, waving his fists about freedom, and now he's cashing in on the same chains he used to fight. Alex stared at the signature, throat tight. Memories crashed over him: nights in the university lab, arguing about ethics, building encryption tools, believing they were the good guys. Ilya laughing, eyes burning with passion, swearing he'd never compromise. Now this. Lynn pulled up another contract. This one is worse. It links Horizon to a government notorious for jailing activists. Here, Clause 17. They get full access to speech recognition, facial tracking, and predictive protest models. And look who signed off. Again, Ilya's name. Sarah's voice was sharp. This isn't just betrayal of ideals, it's complicity in crimes. He is enabling regimes to crush dissent. If this goes public, it's not just a scandal, it's a war crime case. Alex's hands curled into fists. He could almost hear Ilya's voice again in the garage. "Without order, there is no freedom." He muttered, "No, Ilya, without freedom, there is only order, and order is the grave of the living." Nadia stepped forward, eyes blazing. "Then we show them. We put his name beside every victim. We make sure the world knows who turned the key." They said it was about protection. Her best friend Alana had stood there in the boardroom, talking about saving lives. They'd built this system together, late nights fueled by coffee and a shared belief that they were making the world safer. Alana had looked her in the eye and swore they were defending freedom, preventing chaos. She had been a fool, a pawn in their game. This wasn't a shield, it was a cage, a digital prison tracking billions. And Alana, her sister in code, hadn't just built it, she had sold it. Piece by piece to the highest bidder, to regimes that crushed dissent, silenced voices, and profited from fear. She wasn't protecting them, she was selling them. Every promise had been a lie, every shared ideal a betrayal, but she would not let it stand. No cage is perfect, no prison unbreakable. She had helped build this machine. Now she was going to tear it down. The night air was cold in the city. Streetlights painted long shadows over the sidewalk where Alexia Volkov stood, staring up at the tall glass building that used to be her workplace. The corporate logo on the facade gleamed in silver, unbothered by the storm inside her chest. Her employee badge was now useless, the security chip deactivated, but she kept it in her hand anyway, squeezing it so tightly her knuckles turned pale. She whispered under her breath, "I will not let this thing swallow the future." Alexia Volkov, 36, was a senior software engineer who had built parts of the most complex surveillance architecture the country had ever attempted. She had been fired just hours earlier for saying no, refusing to code modules that would allow the government and her former company to track every citizen in real time. Cars passed behind her, engines humming, headlights flickering on her face. She barely noticed. Her mind replayed the boardroom conversation from earlier. "Alexia," said the division chief, a woman with a sharp suit and colder eyes, "we are on the verge of something historic. Do not be the one who slows us down." Alexia had leaned back in her chair, shoulders stiff. Historic for whom? Citizens who will wake up and realize they are living inside a cage they cannot even see? Silence stretched across the room. Then Alana Morozova, her former colleague and old friend, spoke. "Alexia, listen. This system can save lives. Stop attacks before they happen. Prevent chaos, you know this. You helped design the core." Alexia turned to her, voice quiet but heavy. "Saving lives by monitoring every heartbeat and step." "That is not safety, Alana. That is control. And you used to know the difference." The memory burned her even now as she stood outside the building. Alana had once been a passionate advocate for privacy rights. Back in university, they had spent nights coding encryption tools in cramped dorm rooms, convinced they were defending human dignity. Now Alana was the head of the project Alexia had just rejected. Alexia slid the badge into her pocket and started walking. The city looked ordinary, but she knew how quickly ordinary could vanish. Cameras on lampposts, sensors on bus stops, microphones hidden everywhere. She had helped build pieces under promises of limitation. Now those promises were gone. She reached a small corner cafe. The smell of roasted beans and warm bread greeted her. She ordered black coffee and sat by the window. Her phone buzzed with messages from unknown numbers, company officials reminding her of non-disclosure clauses, perhaps subtle threats. She ignored them and instead opened an old contact, Lynn Pham, investigative journalist. Alexia typed quickly, "Need to talk. Urgent, face-to-face, not safe on phone." She hit send and waited. Coffee grew cold. Then the phone lit up. "Meet me tomorrow. Payphone on 7th, call this number." Alexia smiled faintly. Lynn had not changed, still cautious, still sharp. She put the phone away and watched the street. A laughing couple walked by, arms linked. For a moment she envied their ignorance. They had no idea the same laughter could be recorded, analyzed, and scored by hidden algorithms. Inside, she repeated the words again, "I will not let this thing swallow the future." Her life script had shifted. She was no longer an employee. She was something else, perhaps a whistleblower, perhaps a fugitive. But above all, she was a woman who had decided to fight. Later, Alexia sat in her apartment surrounded by books and monitors. Her desk was cluttered with papers, network diagrams, encryption notes, and half-written code. She booted a small, isolated computer, not connected to the internet, and opened a hidden directory few knew existed. CounterEye. Originally a diagnostic tool to test vulnerabilities, unofficially it was a seed of resistance. CounterEye could decode data streams, expose what the system captured, reveal the names and faces being monitored. She leaned back, whispering, "This is the ace they do not know I kept." Her phone buzzed again, not Lynn, but Daniela Alvarez, an old friend and cryptographer she had met in Spain. The message was short. "Heard what happened. If you need another pair of hands, I am in. Alexia typed back, I might. Stay ready. The apartment felt heavy with silence. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the storm beneath. She knew she was only at the beginning. Allies, enemies, leaks, lies, fear, courage, but for now she let herself breathe. She looked at the glowing monitors and imagined a future where the system was exposed. She whispered one last time before turning off the light, no cage is perfect. Every cage has a key, and I am holding one. The next morning, the city was gray with drizzle. Alexia left early, hood up, hands in pockets, eyes alert. No phone, SIM removed, device powered off. She walked, alert to reflections in shop windows. The payphone on 7th still worked. Most people passed it without a glance. Alexia stepped inside, lifted the receiver, and dialed Lynn's number. One ring. A woman's voice came on, low and fast. Do not say names. Where are you? Here, Alexia answered softly. Good, cross the street, 2 blocks east. Bookstore, faded green sign. Wait by the history shelf. Click. The line went dead. Alexia followed instructions. The drizzle thickened. She passed crowds under umbrellas, locked in their worlds, unaware they were already being monitored by the system she had helped design. The bookstore was old, wooden sign chipped, windows fogged. Bell jingled as she entered. She moved toward the history section, pretending to browse. Minutes later, Lynn appeared, dark coat, hair tied back, glasses sliding down her nose. Eyes sharp, carrying the weight of secrets. She pretended to pull a book from the shelf beside her. You look like hell, she said without looking directly at Alexia. Feels accurate, Alexia muttered. They stepped aside into a narrow aisle. Lynn lowered her voice. So, you asked for this, tell me why I should risk even talking to you. Alexia took a breath. Because what they are building is not just another surveillance upgrade. It is total, every movement message call, and they fired me because I said no. Lynn turned a page as if reading. You have proof? Not yet, but I know where to get it, and I know what it can do. Her eyes flicked toward her for the first time. Alexia, you understand what happens to whistleblowers here. Careers destroyed, homes raided, sometimes worse. Why should I not walk away right now? Because you care about truth, Alexia said, her voice low and steady. Because you once told me a journalist's job is to shine light where power hides, and this is the darkest place I have ever seen. For a long second, she said nothing. The only sound was rain tapping against the window. Finally, she closed the book and slid it back onto the shelf. All right, one chance. You get me evidence and I will listen, but if you try to feed me paranoia or half-baked conspiracy, I am gone. Fair, Alexia said. She pulled a card from her pocket and slipped it into the pages of another book, then replaced the book on the shelf. That has a number. One way, you leave messages, I pick them up. Do not call me directly again. Do not text. We will meet like this in random places. Understood? Understood. She adjusted her glasses. And Alexia, be careful. If half of what you are saying is true, they are already watching you. She turned and walked away, leaving Alexia with the smell of dust and the echo of her warning. That night, Alexia returned to her apartment, restless. She pulled up files saved on encrypted drives, notes from her time at the company, diagrams of data pipelines, nodes where information converged. She remembered the prototype she had coded, Counter-Eye. It was still raw, still dangerous, but it could open a window into the black box. Her monitor glowed as lines of code scrolled past. Her thoughts drifted back to Alana. We are making the world safer. Alexia slammed the laptop shut. Safer for whom? She whispered. The next day, another message arrived from an old colleague still inside the company, Zara Haddad. Encrypted, routed through multiple relays. Subject, you were right. Body, they are moving faster than anyone knows, testing full integration next week. I cannot talk long. If you need access, I can help. Alexia stared at the words. Zara was still inside, risking everything to reach her. She typed a reply, meet in person. No digital trail. 3 nights later, Alexia sat in the back of a dimly lit diner. Neon buzzed outside, casting red light over the rain-soaked street. Zara entered quietly, a slim woman in her early 30s with tired eyes. She slid into the booth across from Alexia. You should not have answered me, Zara said, voice low. They track everything. Alexia leaned forward. Then why risk it? Zara rubbed her forehead. Because I cannot stand what they are doing. At first, it was just metadata, call logs, location pings. Then they pushed for voice recordings. Now it's full content, every message, every call, stored, indexed, searchable. Alexia, they can listen to anyone at any time. Alexia's jaw clenched. And the integration next week? Zara nodded. They are combining domestic feeds with foreign contracts, not just our government. They are selling the system overseas. turning oppression into a product. Alexia sat back. Hearing it confirmed her fears, the stomach twisted heavy. Zara glanced around nervously. I can get you temporary credentials, 1-hour window maybe less, but if they trace it back to me, I am finished. I will protect you, Alexia said firmly. I will not expose your name. Zara met her eyes. Promise me, Alexia. I do this only because I believe you will use it wisely. Do not waste it. I promise. They sat in silence. The waitress dropped off 2 cups of coffee, neither touched them. Finally, Zara slid a small flash drive across the table. Tomorrow night, midnight, credentials expire after that. Use them well. Alexia pocketed the drive. Thank you. Zara stood quickly, hood up. Be careful, my friend. They are not just watching the people. They are watching each other. Trust no one. She left, the bell jingling softly as rain swallowed her figure. Alexia sat alone, staring at the untouched coffee. The war had begun, and she was already in it. A cold Friday night, Alexia received a message. Unknown number, encrypted. Parking level 3, 10 o'clock. Come alone. She knew who it was before opening the attachment. The pin was her old workplace, the building where she and Alana had once burned through nights coding idealistic algorithms. Now it was the heart of the surveillance machine. Hours of debate. Could be a trap. Could be Alana. Could be salvation. In the end, Alexia decided to go. The garage smelled of oil and damp concrete. Lights buzzed overhead, casting halos on the floor. Alexia's footsteps echoed. Ilana leaned against a black car, hands in coat pockets, hair shorter, suit expensive, but the same restless energy in her eyes. You came, Ilana said softly. I almost didn't, Alexia replied. For a moment, 2 former sisters in code simply stared at each other. Ilana broke the silence. Alexia, why are you making this so hard? We built the foundations. You should understand why it matters. What matters is choice, Alexia said. People should have the choice to live without eyes on them every second. What you're building takes that away. Ilana stepped closer, lowering her voice. Do you think I like this? I haven't slept over it. But the world is dangerous, attacks, chaos, misinformation. Governments need tools to survive. Without order, there is no freedom. Alexia's jaw tightened. You sound like a speechwriter. That's not you. You used to hack firewalls to prove citizens deserved privacy. Now you're selling them to the highest bidder. Ilana's eyes flashed. I grew up, Alexia. Ideals don't stop bombs. Ideals don't prevent blood in the streets. Alexia stepped forward, close enough to smell the cologne. And what stops bombs when this system is sold abroad? Dictators using it to crush protests, silence journalists? Is that order? Something flickered in Ilana's eyes, guilt, doubt, shame. Then it hardened. You don't see the whole picture. We're shaping the future of global security. Come back and I can protect you. You'll steer the project instead of throwing stones. Alexia laughed bitterly. Protect me? A corner office and a paycheck soaked in silence? No, I need the world protected from you. Ilana's jaw clenched. Careful, eyes are on you. Walk away, maybe they'll forget. Keep pushing, you'll end up like the others. The others? Alexia asked. Ilana hesitated, looked away. Forget it, just go home, think about it. She opened the car door, slid inside, and drove off, leaving Alexia in the echo of exhaust fumes and fluorescent light. Later that night, Alexia sat at her apartment, staring at the screens. Ilana's words echoed, without order there is no freedom. She muttered, without freedom there is no life. She pulled up CounterEye, running small simulations. Access points, hidden channels, back doors. Unfinished, unstable, but possibly the only weapon she had. If Zara could deliver temporary credentials, she could test CounterEye inside the system. That would give evidence, give Lynn the story. Her phone buzzed. Daniela Alvarez, boarding flight, will be in your city tomorrow. You are not doing this alone. Alexia leaned back. For the first time that week, a long breath. She was not alone. The fight was beginning. Rain streaked the apartment window. Empty coffee cups. A half-eaten sandwich forgotten. The glow of multiple monitors on her face. CounterEye pulsed in green letters. She remembered writing the first lines long past midnight, lab empty except for her and Ilana. Officially a diagnostic patch. Unofficially, a backdoor to reverse the flow and expose raw data. I planted a seed in the dark. Now it's the only light I've got. She typed a command. Strings of data unraveled, IPs, voice fragments, GPS logs, trial runs from years ago, yet chillingly clear. Her phone vibrated. Video call request. Daniela Alvarez. Compadre, Daniela said, airport lounge noise behind her. You look like you haven't slept in days. You look reckless, Alexia shot back. Laughter but weight hung between them. In the car, Daniela pulled out a small encrypted laptop. Show me CounterEye. Back at the apartment, code projected on the wall. Daniela studied it, nodding slowly. You sneaky bastard, you really built a backdoor right under their noses. I called it a diagnostic routine. Nobody questioned it. Daniela ran a quick test. Data bloomed across the screen. She sucked in a breath. This isn't just a tool, it's a weapon. If this leaks, governments will hunt it like nuclear codes. Alexia leaned forward, face lit by the glow. Exactly, that's why we use it carefully, only enough to expose the truth, only enough to show people what's being done. Silence, servers hummed. So what's the plan? Daniela asked quietly. Alexia opened her notebook. Zara gives a 1-hour credential window. Shadow channel login. Run counter-eye, pull proof. Lynn prepares the story. Sarah builds legal cover. Nadia provides testimony. When evidence is ready, we go public. Not a leak, not a rumor, a bomb of truth. Daniela raised an eyebrow. And if they trace us, Alexia closed the notebook. Then we run, but at least we run knowing the world has seen. That night, Alexia could not sleep. Rain blurred city lights. She thought of Alana, the friend who once fought for freedom, now defending the cage. Reflection in glass, tired, haunted. Every cage has a key, and I built one. Now I have to be brave enough to use it. Behind her, Daniela slept on the couch, one arm draped over her laptop like a soldier cradling a weapon. The war was coming, walls closing in, coffee brewed, papers scattered, servers hummed. At 9 sharp, a knock, 3 short, too long. Alexia checked the peephole. Lynn Pham, coat dripping, glasses pushed up. Nice bunker. Better than a newsroom full of spies, Daniela muttered. Lynn arched an eyebrow. And you must be the Spanish cryptographer. Daniela stood, bowed slightly. Daniela Alvarez, I break ciphers, not hearts, usually. Lynn ignored it, turning to Alexia. You called me here for more than introductions. Talk. Alexia handed her a folder. Diagrams, surveillance sketches, counter-eye notes. This is what they've built. This is what I can use to expose it. Lynn skimmed, face tightening. If this is real, it's bigger than anything I've touched. Proof matters. Without it, paranoia rules. That's where Zara comes in, Alexia said. 1-hour access, enough to pull the data. Lynn looked skeptical. And if it fails? Then we go down trying, Alexia answered. Another knock. Sarah Kim entered, leather bag, sharp black suit, eyes scanning the apartment like a courtroom. Alexia Volkov heard whispers. Never thought I'd represent a whistleblower before reading the case file. Alexia shook her hand. Glad you're here, legal cover will be crucial. Sarah sat, pulling documents. Whistleblower protections are thin, they'll paint you as a traitor. We frame this as exposure of government abuse. Victims, human faces, not numbers. The door opened again. Nadia Petrova entered, damp hair, faded backpack, heavy eyes. Nadia, Alexia greeted softly. They tracked me for years. Every call, every message. My family harassed. If your system is what I think, it's the same poison that killed freedom back home. If you can prove it, I'll speak. Lynn closed her notebook with a snap. Then we have what we need. Source inside, legal shield, witness, cryptographer, journalist, and one stubborn engineer. Daniela raised her coffee cup. Sounds like the start of a terrible spy movie. Sarah cut in crisp. Not a movie, a war. Discipline, no phones, no unsecured emails. In person only. Slip and they'll eat you alive. Alexia nodded. Agreed, from this point we're ghosts. The rest of the night was spent mapping out roles. Zara would deliver credentials. Daniela and Alexia would run counter-eye. Lynn would prepare the narrative for maximum impact. Sarah would build legal frameworks. Nadia would give testimony. At one point, Nadia spoke quietly, almost to herself. They'll come after me again. Maybe worse this time. But if staying silent means others suffer the same fate, then what's the point of surviving? Alexia's chest tightened. You're not alone this time. None of us are, Daniela grinned. One team, one crazy plan. Lynn smirked faintly. Then let's make it worth the risk. 6 people, each marked by scars and secrets, sat together in Alexia's apartment, the storm pounding against the windows. The room was dark except for the glow of 2 laptops. Close to midnight, the time Zara had promised, Alexia sat at her desk, Daniela at her side, fingers hovering over keyboards like soldiers gripping rifles. The rest of the team waited across the apartment. Lynn paced, notebook in hand. Sarah watched the screens like a jury. Nadia hugged her knees on the couch, eyes fixed on the door as if expecting it to burst open. On the desk lay a small flash drive, Zara's gift, their ticket inside. Alexia exhaled slowly. Once I plug this in, the clock starts. 1 hour, maybe less. Daniela grinned nervously. Plenty of time to blow up the universe, Hermana. Sarah's voice cut sharp. Don't joke, focus. Alexia slid the drive into the port. The laptop flickered, then displayed a login prompt with layers of encryption swirling like a puzzle box. Daniela typed furiously, muttering in Spanish. Credentials work, shadow channel live, nobody scream. Lines of code scrolled. Alexia launched CounterEye. The module flickered, raw and skeletal. For a moment the system hesitated, then streams of data poured across the screen. At first only metadata, phone numbers, GPS pings, timestamps. Then deeper audio snippets, text conversations, video feeds from street cameras. Everything tagged, indexed, searchable. Daniela leaned closer, eyes wide. Matter de Dios. They're not just watching, they're archiving life itself. Lynn stopped pacing. Pull a sample, something undeniable. Lexia's hands shook as she typed commands. The screen shifted to a list of flagged individuals. Names, profiles, categories, journalist, judge, activist, opposition. Nadia's breath caught. Wait, scroll back, that's my name. They froze. On the screen, Nadia Petrova's dossier, every message sent over 3 years, calls with family, emails with colleagues, photos from private folders. Her voice cracked. They still watch me, even here, even after I fled. Sarah's fists clenched. This is proof. Human. What people need to see. Alexia dug deeper. More names appeared, well-known journalists, judges, activists organizing peaceful protests. Daniela whispered, horrified. They built a map of dissent and they hold the kill switch. The clock ticked, 40 minutes left. Suddenly, a warning flashed. Access trace DTCTED. Alexia cursed under her breath. They know someone is inside. Not who, not where, but they know. Daniela's fingers flew. I can mask us for a while. 20 minutes max. Alexia's eyes darted across the room. Then we get what we came for. Lynn, note this. Sarah, prepare the framework. Nadia, brace yourself. This will get ugly. Nadia's voice was firm. Do it. Show them everything. Encrypted logs, proof of targeted surveillance, contracts linking the system to foreign regimes. They downloaded it all, piling the files like stolen treasure. The screen flashed again, trace escalating. Daniela muttered a prayer in Spanish. 5 more minutes, Alexia. Alexia hit the final command. CounterEye extracted a hidden index, a list of external clients. Flags appeared beside corporate shell names, dictatorships, monarchies, regimes notorious for silencing dissent. Lynn whispered, oh my God, they're selling the cage. The laptop chimed, download complete. Alexia yanked the flash drive. The connection severed. Silence fell, broken only by pounding hearts. Daniela leaned back, wiping sweat from her forehead. Congratulations, amigas. We just robbed the devil's vault. Sarah exhaled slowly. Now comes the hard part, surviving the fallout. Alexia held the flash drive, staring at its dull metal surface. Inside it, truth, proof enough to ignite the world, but also a death sentence if it fell into the wrong hands. She slipped it into her pocket. No cage is perfect, and now we hold the key. Morning light broke through the blinds. The team looked drained. Daniela had passed out on the couch. Sarah sifted through legal documents. Nadia sat silently, staring at the floor. Lynn hunched over her laptop, cross-referencing names, contracts, and shell companies. Finally, she pushed up her glasses. You were right, it's not just local, it's global. Alexia rubbed her eyes. Show me. The screen revealed a web of companies tied to offshore banks. Each pointed to a government contract, each tagged with a flag, a small desert monarchy, a one-party state in Asia, a dictatorship in Africa, a corrupt regime in Eastern Europe. They're selling the system piece by piece, Lynn explained. Each country thinks it's buying a defense network. In reality, it's a turnkey solution for mass control. Sarah leaned over, frowning. Legally, this is a nightmare. Every jurisdiction will try to bury us. Nadia spoke for the first time in hours. I recognize some names. Journalists disappeared. Activists jailed. This explains how. Alexia clenched her fists. And Alana is behind this? Lynn clicked another tab. Signature on a contract, Ilana Morozova. She's not just running the project, she's cashing in, selling to regimes she once condemned. Daniela stirred, blinking at the screen. Matter Mia, she preached digital freedom in Barcelona. Now she's the face of tyranny. Alexia's chest tightened. She told me she was protecting people. All along, she protected profits. Lynn tapped the keyboard, pulling up news articles and leaked business records. This isn't just a tech story. This is a geopolitical bomb. Governments will scramble to cover tracks and will be targets from every side. Sarah closed her folder with a snap. Then we decide now, local release country by country, or detonate the whole thing at once? Nadia's eyes blazed. Go big. People in my country are still suffering. Hold back and you leave them behind. Daniela rubbed her temples. Big means danger. They'll come for us with everything. Alexia looked around the room, faces marked by fear and determination. She placed the flash drive on the table. We didn't come this far to play it safe. We dropped the bomb, all of it. Lynn exhaled, nodding. Redundancy. If one outlet is killed, 3 more publish simultaneously. I'll draft the first report and mirror it globally. Daniela leaned back, grinning tiredly. Looks like we're about to ruin some very powerful mornings. Sarah's voice was iron. Prepare for backlash. Arrests, raids, character assassination. Alexia, you'll be painted a traitor. Nadia a liar. Daniela a foreign agitator. Me an activist lawyer. Lynn a propagandist. We need to be ready? Lynn nodded. I'll map the money trail, every shell company, every transfer. If Ilya hides behind paperwork, we'll drag it into the light. Diego cracked his knuckles. I'll make sure these files can't be erased. Encrypted mirrors across the globe. Take down 1 copy, 10 more appear. Sarah's tone was ironclad. Timing is everything. Present it right, and the evidence is too big to bury. Omar, pale and exhausted, spoke quietly. You don't understand. Ilya isn't just another executive. Inside Horizon, he is untouchable. Security, budgets, political contacts. Go for him and you go for the entire system. Alex's voice was steady. Good, then we know where to aim. Later that night, Alex sat alone by the window, flash drive in hand. The city outside looked peaceful, neon lights flickering, cars sliding past, people laughing in cafes, all unaware of the cage around their lives. He whispered, You were supposed to fight with me, Ilya. Now you're the wall I have to break. Reflection stared back, tired and haunted but determined. Tomorrow they would not just be whistleblowers, they would be accusers. At the center of the accusation, the man who had once been his brother. The apartment was a war room. Papers and laptops covered every surface. Coffee cups stacked in corners. Exhaustion and adrenaline hung thick. Lynn stood at a whiteboard salvaged from a neighbor's trash, arrows, circles, and names scrawled across it. This isn't one article anymore. Coordinated release. Kill 1 outlet, 3 more publish simultaneously. Redundancy is survival. She tapped her marker. First draft goes to independent sites in Europe, Asia, South America. Embargoed packages, files, contracts, screenshots. Once embargo lifts, it goes everywhere. Sarah flipped through legal codes. Protective injunctions filed simultaneously. Lawsuits, we bury them in motions before they act. Diego leaned back, grinning despite dark circles. 9 lives for our bomb, encrypted mirrors, P2P backups, anonymous clouds, 1 copy down, 10 more rise. Nadia raised her head. And I'll speak on camera, full story. People need a human face, not numbers, not contracts. Alex nodded slowly. This is it, no drip leaks. No teasing. Evidence, money trail, testimony. 1 undeniable blast. Omar spoke from the corner. Ilya won't just fight publicly, he'll fight in shadows, allies in government, military, intelligence, everything at us. Sarah met his eyes. Then let him, courts, cameras, protests, we answer on every front. Lynn scribbled another note. Timing, right moment, big enough to cut through noise, fast enough to outpace spin. Diego smirked. Friday at midnight. Governments hate weekends. By Monday, fire's out of control. Nadia gave a faint smile. Friday works, people will be awake, hungry for something real. Alex placed the flash drive on the table. Tiny metal gleamed. This holds the truth. Once out, nothing will be the same. He looked at each face. Lynn sharp and relentless, Sarah calm and ironclad, Diego reckless but brilliant, Nadia fragile but brave, Omar trembling yet loyal. He felt the weight of their trust pressing against him. Tomorrow night, Alex said, we pull the trigger. Later, after the others had dozed off in corners of the room, Alex sat alone at the desk. The city outside was quiet. He opened his notebook and began writing, not code, not diagrams, but words. If you are reading this, it means I failed. But even if I fall, the truth must stand. Freedom is not safety. Freedom is not order. Freedom is the right to be unseen, unheard, untracked unless we choose otherwise. If you give that up for the illusion of security, you trade your soul for a lock on your cage. He stopped, staring at the page. Then he tore it out and tucked it into his jacket pocket. If he didn't survive what came next, someone would find it, someone would read it, and maybe, just maybe, it would spark something. The clock ticked toward midnight. The apartment buzzed with nervous energy. Alex sat at the desk with the flash drive plugged in. Lynn had 3 laptops open, each queued to blast files to different outlets. Diego ran scripts across anonymous servers, digital escape hatches. Sarah stood by the window, phone in hand, ready to call courts the second the drop hit. Nadia sat before a small camera, posture straight, hands folded, waiting to speak her truth. Omar paced back and forth, glancing at his watch. "They'll know the second this goes live. They'll know it's you," he said. Alex didn't look up. "Good, let them know." Lynn tapped a key. "On my mark, 3, 2, 1, publishing." The files launched into the world. Screens blinked green as progress bars raced forward. Servers mirrored data across continents. Counterized archives scattered like shards of glass across the web. Nadia began speaking into the camera, her voice calm but unyielding. "My name is Nadia Petrova. I was targeted, tracked, and silenced by the system Horizon Security built, and I am not alone. Judges, journalists, activists, we were cataloged like insects. Tonight we show you the proof. Tonight you see the cage for what it is." Her testimony streamed live, carried on independent channels, shared on social networks, reposted faster than Horizon's lawyers could send takedown notices. Sarah's phone buzzed. She answered crisply. "Yes, Judge, the injunctions are filed. No, we will not reveal sources. Yes, we stand by the evidence. Thank you." She hung up and exhaled. "At least one court bought us time," Diego cursed loudly. "They're trying to cut the backbone. Horizon is attacking the mirrors." His fingers flew across the keyboard. "Too late, amigos. I built backups in Iceland, Chile, Kenya, Vietnam. Cut 100 and 100 more will light up." On the TV, major networks broke in with emergency coverage. Anchors read headlines with wide eyes, "Global Surveillance Network Exposed. Horizon linked to authoritarian regimes." Mass data leaks confirmed targeting of journalists and judges. Then the feed shifted. Ilya himself, live from a gleaming studio. "These are lies," he declared, voice booming. "Stolen files manipulated by criminals. This so-called evidence is taken out of context. Horizon is saving lives. Do not let a handful of traitors endanger national security." Nadia's live stream continued in a corner of the screen, her voice cutting through his. "Look at the contracts. Look at the signatures. This is not about safety. This is about control. They sold silence to dictators. They tracked innocents. They profited from fear. And now they are afraid of you knowing the truth." The split screen told the whole story, a polished executive defending order and a survivor exposing the cost. Crowds filled city squares within hours. Phones lit up with alerts. Hashtags trended worldwide. People marched, holding homemade signs. "We are not data. We are people. Tear down the cage. Privacy is freedom." At Horizon headquarters, alarms blared. Security teams scrambled to isolate servers. Engineers pulled cables. Lawyers drafted cease and desist letters at lightning speed. Ilya stormed through the control room, barking orders. "Shut them down. Every channel, every site. Flood the feeds with counternarratives. If you can't kill it, bury it under noise." But the noise could not keep up with the signal. Screens worldwide lit up with names, faces, and proof. Back in the apartment, Alex watched the chaos unfold. His heart pounded, but for the first time in weeks he felt a spark of hope. Privacy is not a privilege, it's a birthright, and tonight we took it back. Morning sunlight poured through the blinds. Nobody had slept. They sat together, drained yet wired, as news anchors shouted over one another. The Horizon leaks are the largest surveillance scandal in modern history. Lawmakers call for immediate hearings. Opposition leaders demand resignations. Crowds filled streets worldwide. Students chanted. Workers carried banners. Judges and journalists who had lived in fear now raised their voices openly. Sarah switched channels, her expression sharp. "Congress is opening emergency hearings. They're summoning Horizon executives. That means Ilya." Alex leaned forward, watching cameras show politicians filing into chambers. For once, the lawmakers looked rattled. Reporters shouted questions at a government spokesperson. Did Horizon sell surveillance technology to authoritarian regimes? Did they target domestic activists? The spokesperson dodged, sweating. Diego let out a low whistle. "Looks like somebody's losing his lunch in front of the world." By noon, the first resignation hit. Ministers tied to Horizon's contracts stepped down. Courts froze all Horizon government contracts and secured servers as evidence. Nadia closed her eyes, tears slipping down. "It's happening. They can't ignore us anymore." Alex put a hand on her shoulder. "You gave them a voice, Nadia. You gave them courage." At Horizon headquarters, chaos reigned. Ilya's calm mask had cracked, his tie loosened, hair disheveled. Executives whispered frantically. "They're coming for us. The evidence is undeniable." "Maybe we cut Ilya loose, make him the scapegoat." He signed the contracts. His name is everywhere. Ilya slammed a fist on the table. "Don't you dare. I built this. Without me you're nothing. They won't take me down." But deep down, he knew the tide was against him. That evening in the apartment, the team watched live footage from courthouse steps. Sarah stood before microphones, flanked by Alex, Nadia, and Diego. We are here today not as criminals, but as citizens defending our rights. Horizon Security built a machine to spy, silence, and sell human lives. Governments must answer for their complicity. Citizens everywhere must demand accountability. Nadia stepped forward, voice steady. I was a target. I lived in fear for years, but I am not afraid anymore, and no one else should be either. The crowd erupted in cheers. People chanted her name. Later, the team sat exhausted but resolute. Lynn warned, they'll come harder now. Spin campaigns, smear pieces, maybe worse. We're not safe yet. Alex looked around at his friends, now family. Safety isn't the goal, truth is, and tonight the truth has a voice. The storm wasn't over, but the wind had shifted. Weeks passed. Firestorms changed shape but never calmed. Horizon executives faced televised hearings. Protesters filled streets in cities Alex had never seen. The story had leapt across borders. In a small workspace, Alex and his team gathered again. The air felt different, not fear, not secrecy, but purpose. Diego hunched over a laptop. Prototype uses onion routing with adaptive noise. Trace it and all they get is garbage. Alex nodded. Good, but keep it simple for ordinary people. Privacy tech fails if it's too complicated. Sarah trained young lawyers on defending digital rights, her voice precise but glimmering with hope. You don't wait for institutions to save you. You become the wall between power and people. Lynn typed furiously, writing guides on tools and tactics, teaching readers how to protect themselves. People are listening, not just to the scandal, but to solutions. They want to learn, they want to fight back. Nadia spoke at community gatherings, her voice fragile but growing stronger. Fear is their weapon. Every time we talk, share tools, we blunt that weapon. Omar designed training modules for insiders, how to blow the whistle safely. Quietly, he told Alex, I can't erase my role in building their machine, but maybe I can help others break free from inside. Alex placed a hand on his shoulder. You're doing more than you know. One afternoon, Alex addressed a classroom of young people. Encryption isn't just math, it's a promise, the right to lock your door digitally, and it's only as strong as the person who refuses to hand over the key. A student asked, after Horizon, how can we trust privacy tools? Alex answered softly, don't trust the system, trust each other. Transparency, open code, communities that watch the watchers. Horizon thrived in shadows, we fight in the light. Silence fell, then students nodded, typed, asked questions. The spark had caught. That night, Diego clapped Alex on the back. Myra Hermano, you're not just a whistleblower anymore, you're a teacher, a builder. Alex smiled tiredly. I'm just trying to fix what we broke. Sarah added, you're showing people they can fight for themselves. That's bigger than any courtroom. Lynn closed her laptop with a snap. And the more people learn, the less any one company, any one government can control. I looked at them all, Diego, Lynn, Sarah, Nadia, Omar. They weren't just survivors. They were builders of something new. And for the first time since the fight began, I felt not just defiance but possibility. Months had passed since the night the cage was exposed. Horizon was in ruins. Governments were still scrambling, some trying to bury evidence, others pretending they had never known. The battle wasn't over, maybe it never would be, but the world had changed. People no longer walked blindly. They questioned. They resisted. They learned to lock their digital doors. On a quiet evening, I stood before a crowd in a community hall. The room was full students, workers, parents with children on their laps. Cameras streamed the event live, not through corporate networks but through independent channels built by volunteers. I took a breath and began. I'm not here as a hero. I'm not here as a savior. I'm here as someone who made mistakes, someone who once helped build the very thing we fought against. I stood inside the machine. I saw its gears turning, and when I refused to oil those gears, I was thrown out. The room was silent, waiting. I continued. They told me freedom was dangerous. That order was safety, that if we surrendered our privacy, we'd be protected. But I learned something simple. Privacy is not a luxury. Privacy is dignity. Without it, we are not citizens. We are products. We are prisoners. Faces in the crowd nodded. Some clutched each other's hands. My voice grew stronger. We fought because silence feeds power. We spoke because light is stronger than shadows. And we built because tools of freedom are not gifts from corporations or governments. They are ours to create, ours to share. I glanced at my team sitting in the front row, Diego grinning proudly, Lynn scribbling notes even now, Sarah steady as stone, Nadia with tears in her eyes, Omar sitting taller than I had ever seen him. I smiled. No one is born to be watched. No one is born to live in a cage. We are human. We have inner lives, secrets, dreams, flaws, and those deserve respect. Technology must bow to that truth, not the other way around. I paused, then ended softly, almost like a vow. When each of us chooses to guard one another's dignity, freedom blooms. Not because of one whistleblower or one team, but because ordinary people decide to be gatekeepers of the future. That's how we win. That's how we stay free. The room erupted in applause. People stood, clapping, shouting, cheering. Some cried. Others raised their phones to record, not as evidence for a machine, but as proof for each other that courage was possible. I stood in the light, humbled, grateful, and no longer alone. Outside the hall, the night sky stretched vast and dark, full of stars. For the first time in a long time, I looked up and felt not watched, not hunted, but free.